a lot of you in the chat. Hopefully you can hear me. I'll get confirmation of that shortly. Who was in first? Kim! Yay! Hello, Kim. Hello, Spatial Optic. I'm liking that name. Where did it come from? Let me know. Deb, hello. Hello, Nick. Who else have we got? I need that text.
You're live.
Making bigger. Oh, we are indeed live. Excellent. Renee. No, hang on. Oh, there's lots of Dutch words there. I'm not going to attempt it. How are you feeling? Let us know. Hello, Graham. Hello, Jonathan. Who else have we got? Pandemonium. Hello, Peter. There was accusations made, weren't there? Just saying. What else have we got going on in here? Carol, is it second time today, Carol? I spotted you. Mike and I were both sat there, weren't we?
We were.
Yes. It was a sort of Captain's Table hybrid paid-for webinar thing. It was fabulous. And you're not really late. Well, not as late as I might have been. It's not behaving itself. It's one of those days. But never mind. We are all here now. Oh, that's fantastic, Renee. You are feeling better. Excellent. Hello, Patience. Good to have you with us. And if you are in the chat or you are watching but you're not saying anything, hello to you as well. You are most welcome. So let's see if everything's working first, because bad words have been said all day, haven't they?
They have.
Now I've got this problem where everything's beach balling and moving wherever it feels like it, whenever it feels like it. So this should be fun. But it's been a rather interesting week. You won't want to miss the week at MacBites headquarters. Trust me when I say that. Isn't that right, Mike?
It certainly is.
Oh, mouse pointer's jumping all over the place. And my own desktop seems to be 30 seconds behind itself. So this should be interesting. Right, okay. So what have we got? Week at MacBites headquarters, followed by a special announcement. Can't say any more about that at the moment, but at least it's the first thing. Then we've got PDFOptim. So last week we looked at some native ways to compress PDF. This week we're moving on to an app to do it for you. And it's pretty brilliant, if I say so myself. Then we've got some magnificent mock-ups. Now, we've done mock-ups before. These are really, really nice. A bonus, free. Can't say fairer than that. Then we've got the freebies. Which I'm thinking of having a challenge on the freebies, so hang around for that. And then in our Obsidian section, we're carrying on our series and we're looking at templates versus templater. So easy to get confused between the two if you are uninitiated, but by the end of that, you will be initiated. Oh, I've just had a thought. Is Jammy still at the gym?
Probably.
Oh, Jammy, not good enough. Okay, so hopefully you can see what I can see. It's looking good. Right, 1080p, we are broadcasting in 1080p. Make sure you are watching in 1080p. This week, YouTube wouldn't budge from 480 for me. I have no idea why. It's just in one of those moods. You'll find the cog in the lower right-hand corner of the video. Close by, you've got the like button. So, you know, two birds, one stone, as they say. So, how did our week go? I hope yours was better. Let's just say that. Saturday. Now, you know our prime concern on a Saturday is will we be able to eat or not? Now, they let us down yet again. A week's a long time. They say in politics, don't they? It's a long time online as well. So let's take ourselves back. You'll remember the weather. It was cold. But in Manchester, true Manchester style, nothing but rain. So you can imagine my horror when Tesco's got in touch and said they were a barren oasis. No water. Really? Not a drop of water to be found, they assured us. Well, this is Manchester. It was raining. Improvise. You know, bottle your own. There's no shortage of water here, except at Tesco's. So while I was saying bad words about Tesco's, Apple managed to send me a mail. Now, to be precise, Apple never send me emails. I think I'm on Timmy's blacklist. But my mum's email address, I know she died in 2014. But never mind that, it's still active. So Apple send her emails and I piggyback on those. A yellow iPhone. Would you, Mike?
No.
No, one, I'm not tempted by silly colours. You know, pinks, blues, anything really. I usually have silver or the nearest to black or space grey. But 2, why would you buy mid-cycle? Odd, I thought. But anyway, there's a yellow iPhone out. Hello, sunshine, it said. It was snowing in the UK. So, nice timing, Apple. Nice timing. Sunday, special day for us. Probably only us care. But never a day goes by where we don't think of our first baby, Maya. And he was born on the 12th of March 2001, so he would have been 22. We couldn't... We're not old enough, are we, really? No. Although we did age about 10 years in 5 minutes when he arrived. He looks so angelic, doesn't he? But you can see he's ripping the label off that bottle, and he was 7 weeks old at that point. Then there was his favourite toy, straw. He ate the eyeball, didn't he, Mike?
Yes, and then I was on...
output duty.
Yeah.
Luckily, it came out the other end before we had to go to the vet with him. Oh, he was a crazy dog, but we loved him. As you can see, he was jousting. That was my father's. It's kind of a fishing stool, isn't it? But it was his toy, and there he was. He hadn't even got his big teeth at that stage, and he was jousting with Grandad's chair. He was ever such a good boy. Never made a mess or anything, did he? And if you're wondering what he's chewing on, that was his grooming brush. So as I say, we aged 10 years in 5 minutes after he arrived. It was a tiring job looking after him, wasn't it, Mike? Yes, you know what's coming up next, don't you? You had to sleep when he slept. Now, interestingly, yeah, never mind you. Look at the ball. That was the same ball that Lola played with when she arrived. And she ripped it to shreds. It no longer exists. But we reminisced on Sunday, we did. There was also a match on. Mike had high hopes. I didn't. It was 0-0. I didn't realise we got somebody sent off. I didn't think anyone was playing to that degree, to be honest. But yes, apparently so. Apparently so. So not exactly glorious, but, you know, it'll do. It'll do. Monday, I had a completely clear day until Hindenburg announced that they were having another webinar. This is all to do with the beta version of Hindenburg Pro 2. And they were going to announce another feature. So I'd already got it installed. I did my update, got inside it, couldn't see anything different at all. But they've added the ability to edit audio inside video files. So that was quite a nice feature. There's other stuff I'd want, but it was quite a nice feature. I live in hopes they'll add what I want.
Joe's made a point about the iPhone colours. If somebody wants colours, get a case.
Exactly. I mean, I remember there was one, was it the 7? We bought the piano black. Piano black. Yeah, sounded fabulous. I put a case on it, never saw it. No idea what the back looked like. just me. But no, yeah, I wouldn't buy something weird. I also think, you know, if you are going to sell that on later, would it be more difficult to sell something that was a weird colour? I don't know. They always tend to bring out like a new colour. There was the camouflage green. There was the puke purple. What else was there? Well, now we've got this yellow one. I don't like anything pink, but that's just me. So Tuesday came around. Tuesday was fascinating because Lola's crazy about squirrels. And not having her own in the garden, we decided to treat her to a squirrel. They didn't come in ones, they came with a friend. I don't know why I've got a cough, but I've got a bad cough. I'm blaming Renee, you know. It was Cyril the squirrel and Rocky the raccoon. And they're bigger than they look. So just the right size for Lola. When they arrived, she instantly made off with Cyril the squirrel. I was left with Rocky the raccoon, and he's still next to me right now. Obviously, when she's done the decent thing and ripped the other one to shreds, she'll be back for Rocky. He's actually got, and so has the squirrel, a squeaker in his head and a squeaker in his tail. So if she's got one end of it, she's squeaking it. Now, as we're holding on for dear life to the other end, we're squeaking it as well. So it's been a noisy week, hasn't it? But you wouldn't let her take chicken out.
It was 6:30 this morning.
Yes, and I don't suppose the neighbours want to be serenaded by the chicken.
Exactly.
They've no taste, not at all. So Wednesday, I'd allocated Wednesday to business work. It's a mastermind thing that I'm
Eva
in.
has a skunk just like that.
I wondered if it was a raccoon or a skunk, but I think it's a raccoon. So I had my mastermind session. Didn't think I was going to have time for anything else. But just to tantalise Peter a bit, can't say any more, obviously. So, Thursday dawned. Thursday used to be, I remember saying to you, Mike, Thursday was always the day you could put on a session with impunity. Thursday was the only day in the week you could guarantee there would be no football. Until Europa got involved, the UEFA Europa League. As we all know, the Euro tin pot. It was the second leg and we'd won the first game 4-1. We had high hopes. It was a bit dour, wasn't it? It was as though we're winning 4-1, let's not bother. And then they inadvertently scored. What are you looking at?
I was looking at the fixtures for the next round.
Oh, I got a mail about that.
Oh.
It was saying that we'd opted out of the Tin Pot games, but if we wanted to opt back in, they had plenty of tickets. I thought, I'm not surprised.
Oh,
It's the
I didn't see
Tin
that
Pot.
one.
Oh, you must have missed that one. But more importantly than that, Thursday was really busy. You should see my calendar. I've got like 9 things overlapping each other. But the most important was, of course, marooned at MacBites headquarters. We were 3 years in yesterday. Oh, we had an absolute blast. If you were with us, thank you very much. I know some weren't. I did say in the email, add it to your calendar. We sent out a reminder and we missed you. Let's just say that. And you would have missed grossly defamatory accusations that were made, saying that I wasn't paying enough attention to, shall we say, digital output, that I was eating ice cream, which I can't deny. I do like a nice ice cream. And, wait for it, consuming box sets, binge watching them no less. Let's just say that, yes, accusations were made and noted. They were noted. Which takes us on to today. Now, I only intended today to do one thing, other than the after hours. And that was my Captain's Table Mastermind session, which was fabulous. It was fabulous. It was 2-hour epic, it was. But throughout the week, I've consolidated this on Friday, but throughout the week, there's been shenanigans going on here. If you've been with us a while, you know we kind of live on the edge of the twilight zone, don't we? Where pieces of chicken land in your garden, or frozen chicken on the pub wall, and things like that happened. Well, this time, it was the great M33 invasion. M33 being the beginning of our postcode. It was actually Starship. I'm informed that's the Starship Enterprise. This was Starship. It started, I would say, Tuesday-ish.
I think so, yeah.
So, you know, on Facebook, we're in the local postcode group. So it's the only way you find out what's going on. And you can also bully the council, so it's fabulous. So we're in the M33 group, and photos started appearing like this of little robots meandering around the neighbourhood. That is about 500 yards away. They were all over the place. So everyone was taking pictures of these things that were wandering around. And they make a noise. Apparently they sing, don't they?
Apparently they do.
They can play music, but basically it's beep, 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 and there's a flashing light on the top. Yes, I wondered as well. So everybody that sees one of these things is like, never mind what's in it, I'm just going to take a photo of it and put it onto the M33 group. So I was thinking, it's a flash in the pan, you know, it'll only be there for 5 minutes. But reports came in of illicit robot raves where they all congregated on street corners. It's like kids, isn't it? My mum had this mentality of, you know, I don't want to live on a corner, I don't want to live here, I don't want to live there, because the kids will be outside playing ball. I mean, you can't prize them off their PlayStations these days, but that was her mentality. So little robots hanging around on street corners, her idea of purgatory, I would have thought. You could not make this up. Anyway, I said, you know, if there's that many of them congregating, again, that's the other side of the road to the one you've just seen. So it's about 500 yards away from our front door. Can you imagine? It'd be like, what's that thing? Is it Skybot, Skynet? Something where the technology takes over. Well, never mind. Just like Doctor Who, we had a saviour in all of this. But this is where they actually live. So they were all neatly lined up. There's 5 of them there. You can see 4 and there's one on the left. On the right, rather. But the next day, there was the main 4 and another 3. So they seem to be breeding as well. Is what I'll say with that. They seem to be breeding. But you know what's coming next, don't you? The pickies are a little bit blue because it was very early in the morning, as Madam sorted them out. So they've now acquired a supervisor, haven't they? She was very interested. Very, very interested. She worked out how they opened, and they didn't really squawk at her either. I thought that they might have had a dabble with her, but they didn't. So she very much investigated absolutely everything that was going on from all angles. Can you imagine if they'd got fur? She'd be bringing it home. In fact, I was actually quite surprised that she didn't bring it home. But she checked out absolutely everything. It isn't even just... This is like 500 yards from us. It isn't even just that they're all over the place. So this is a co-op, about a mile away? Yeah, about a mile away. If you're wondering, I thought I'd have to explain this, you know. That thing on the left that looks like a glass garden shed, that's actually a public payphone. I didn't think we still had those. Bearing in mind, I've not...
a couple around.
Well, I've not left the house in 3 years, have I? So I haven't seen it for 3 years. But yes, it's called Starship. Now, the funniest one was because when Mike and I are talking, my back's to the window, the office window. Mike, of course, can see out of the office window. And his eyes just wander past me. I said, what are you looking at now? Robot. And the robots are going up and down the road because we live so close. So this afternoon, this happened. Yes, that's me leaning out of the window. Please note, grass, fabulous. Hedges, fabulous. Just saying. And it was Robot Wars. With somebody standing in between 2 robots. And the thing is, they keep stopping and having a think. Anyway, they went past one another. She got out of the way just in time as they went past one another. So it's a thing, apparently. It is called Starship Food Delivery. Now, that looks like it's local restaurants, and I don't know if local restaurants are doing it or not. Here, it is a supermarket called the Co-op. So we've got these things running around all over the place. There's going to be an accident, isn't there?
There is.
And the other thing is cars that park on pavements, which personally I think should be... I was going to say a something offence. An offence. It should be an offence to park on the pavement. If your car is on the pavement to such a degree that the robot can't get past, when you see the size of it, how's somebody in a wheelchair or somebody with a pram supposed to get past? Just saying. Me, I would just push the car out of the way. This is why I'm not allowed out of the house, you know. So it was a very, very interesting week. If one goes past while we're live, you might hear it beep. It depends. We might have to open the window so you can hear it beep. But Mike will keep an eye on it, won't you?
Mm.
Because he said they're going up and down as though they're lost, which they could well be. Couldn't make it up. You really couldn't. Right.
Renee says they have a co-op over there. Wonder if they'll see them anytime soon.
Oh, hopefully. Right. Important. But you've all got here tonight at the right time, so fingers crossed. But the US changed the clocks last week. So this week and next week, we're an hour off what we usually are. Let's put it like that. Kim says, our neighbourhood is very entertaining. Can't wait for the next saga. Exactly. What'll happen next? I swear there will be an accident. I swear there will. What people are saying on the M33 group is like one mum, the kid was so excited that she had to place an order, and she ordered cat litter and sweets, which sounds like that's reasonable to me. And the child was so excited. So to be honest, it's nice to see them so excited, but it's only a matter of time before one gets lost, stolen, or something else. But this robot with this child that was so excited, the child hugged it, and the robot started talking to him. It's going to cost the mum a fortune, isn't it? You'll have to have a delivery every day. When's he coming back? Love it. So
Jammy's in now.
Oh, Jammy.
Finish pumping the iron.
Better late than never. No, that's not something that I want to contemplate. Exercise. No, it's all right if somebody else is doing it. I could outsource that easily. If only it worked like that. So, Jammy's in just in time. Special announcement. Right. Oh, he always goes back and rewatches. You might want to watch this one twice. Certain people might want to watch this more than twice. So, special announcement. Let's go back to just 5 minutes ago. Remember those grossly defamatory accusations that were made in Marooned? That I was eating ice cream, which I can't deny, I will admit, and binge-watching box sets. This was Peter. So to go back even further in time, who remembers Peter's pleading pooches? It's been going on quite a while. But poor Poppy was. I mean, look, you just couldn't, could you? Look at that face, right? And if you think that's bad, that's even worse. Oh, that's just guilt-inducing, isn't it? So, if you remember, I said, right, Dirty Hack video underway. Not much in terms of progress since, though, has there, Mike?
No.
If we're honest, things got done, believe it or not, but not to the point of actually appearing. So, before I move on, I think Annie needs to find a chair for Peter. Urgently. Drum roll, please. It's a wrap. Peter, it's actually done. What's more, released tomorrow. Now, having said that, to be more accurate, I'm going to hold it hostage until I see some of this from the pooches in Peter's life. I want big, cheesy grins, and then I will release the video. Can you manage that, Peter? You're going to have to come up with an amazing amount of treats to get a smile like that from them. But this is what I need to see. Oh, he's in the chat. Pandemonium, that's Annie, says, done and done, excellent. And Peter says, yay. Oh, Graham wants to know if they can ring the doorbell. No, these robot things, they give you a map and you can follow their progress to your house. And it usually takes somewhere between 40 minutes to an hour. And when it gets as close as it can get, so it doesn't come up the path, because if you think about it, if the gate's shut, it can't open the gate either. So it gets as close as it can get, and then it pings you and says, come and empty me. Lola would be in her element. If she ever finds out that these magic moving white boxes contain food, we're all done for. So there you go. Right. So, Peter, I shall just now wait for the snivelling apologies about me eating ice cream, box sets, and everything else, just saying. And I want beautiful pictures of the smiling dogs. Right, so let's get on with tonight. So, last week we looked at shrinking PDFs, and I had been using PDF Expert, and it wasn't bad. But I needed to consider having to compress a PDF on mobile. And that's where PDFOptim comes in. So, there is a version for macOS and for iOS. Pricing-wise, there is a free version. I thought it was a smidgen stingy, but there you go. Right, if you had the light version, or a previous version, and you are upgrading, you can pay $1.99 a year. Now, I've not put dollars or pounds because they're the same in Apple money. Obviously, not rationally, they're not. But in Apple money, they are. So it's $1.99 a year or £1.99 a year. But if you want a lifetime deal, obviously, it would be cost effective to go for the £2.99 update, and you don't need to pay any more. Now, if you need to make a new purchase because you've never used it before, you can get a trial. So you download the thing and you can work through it to see how well it would optimize a file, and you can even optimize one file per week. That would actually be enough if you've got one job and you do it weekly, like I do the church newsletter. So if you want to purchase it so you can shrink as many files as you like, the monthly access is 99 pence a month or cents a month. Yearly is $6.99 a year. So a lot more cost effective than PDF Expert, to be honest. Or you can get lifetime access for $9.99. which is what I went for, because I don't like monthly things. And you're only spending £3 more or $3 more, and you've got access. So that is the pricing system. But you can test it as many times as you like. It only counts this weekly output if you actually compress the file and save it. So if you're just testing it to see what it can do, and the benefit of this one over all of the others that I've found is the side-by-side comparison. So let's go in and have a look at it. Right, PDFOptim. There we go. So what's going on in the chat? Oh, Patience has gone.
Patience has...
See you soon. Right, so this is what it looks like. So initially, at this point, I've run through a few files through it, and you can see that it's saying total space saved on the right, however many meg, and a percentage. So it's giving you a running total. But what I've got here is the Mac version. It's very simple to use. First thing you need to do is to add a file to it that you're going to compress. So I've got some full quality exports that I made from Affinity Publisher. So I did not optimize these. In fact, I deliberately unoptimized them. I deliberately made them as big as possible because I wanted to control the compression. So the files we've got here, some of them are bigger than others. That was the biggest one, which was Affinity Photo for iPad that we looked at last week. So we'll start with that one. So all I'm going to do is drag and drop it into here. So this one is actually not compressed in any way at all. So you can see on the left-hand side, you've got the original file. And it's thinking about it over on this side. So the original is 89.3 meg, and this compressed one is 5.6. Looking at it, and obviously as I'm scrolling, you've got a linked scroll from the original uncompressed to the compressed on the right, which is genius. Mike said as he looked at that, he couldn't see the difference. I thought the one on the right, where it says top secret on the buff background, was a little bit lighter, but you can hardly tell any difference, considering the difference in size. So, I've done it again, I've not turned my notifications off. This because it was a nightmare to actually go live. So you toddle off there while I toddle here. Come on, focus, you want to. Okay, you don't want to. Well, you know what? You're going to do it anyway. So behave yourself. Right, let's turn that on. Excellent. Right, you don't see my backups running. So what I'm looking at in here, I'm a little bit zoomed in there, so I would probably zoom that out a bit, but not quite that bit. So I can see it like that is about a good level. And as you change the zoom, it's changing it on both sides, obviously, and scrolling, you're comparing. Which when I was doing a comparison in PDF Expert or Acrobat, I would open the original in a different app like Preview and then put them side by side. This one is way better because it's going to do that for you. And as you move down looking for something to compare, so if you remember last week, we did a compression and you couldn't read it. You literally couldn't read it. So what I would do with this is zoom in, see how it is. And I can see it is a little bit rougher on the right. Not the number, because that's vector, but this image at the back. The word persona, if you look just underneath the very edge of the text, I'll zoom in a bit more. You can see it looks as though there's like a line of pixels missing there. So there is a slight difference, but it's mainly the text. The dots aren't too bad, and I think for the compression that I would get there, I would probably leave it like that. But one thing to think about with this is, when we did PDF Expert, we could choose the compression. And it was backwards to this. This is saying extreme compression, low compression. The other ones are like low file size, so that's high compression because it's a low file size. This is like the other way around. But low compression, it's doing pretty well anyway. When you look at the compression, it's compressed it by almost 94%. But you can go silly. You can go even more. So if we move to medium, it goes through the compression process again. And this time it will be more pixelated. But it's decreased the size by 96.2%. So let's have a look again by zooming in. It's not that much worse. You can tell on the icon the colour's not quite the same, and there is a big difference. But I mean, it depends what you're doing with the PDF. So you could put on a website, for example, a reasonable quality one, and a low quality one. And that way, if somebody's on limited bandwidth, they can choose to download the low quality one. Another option that you've got is to make two different files, one where there's fewer graphics. I did the church newsletter with this today, actually for real, and it did a pretty good job. There were images in it for Mother's Day, and I couldn't tell the difference. And I saved 33%, I think, on that one. You can then go to high compression, and once we get to extreme, you won't be able to read it. But we'll do it anyway. Okay, so you can see that you can read it, but it's starting to deteriorate to the point that I wouldn't be happy putting that out. So you can imagine what extreme compression will do. But again, if somebody's got really limited bandwidth, they would be able to read it. It's just that the graphics would be appalling. But let's have a look. How bad? Oh, it's gone black and white. So actually, you can read it. Let's take that down. That is one way to reduce it. But no, actually, you could use that, couldn't you? You would lose the kind of awareness of the colour, navigating by colour. But it is actually readable. Now, what's the file size? Tiny. So now it's gone from 90 meg to 921k. So it's 99% smaller. Let's go to the cover page where we had lots of colour that now we don't. And there you go. I mean, that is not great. What you could do, if you really wanted to, is compress everything else and then swap that cover back in and have that to, say, a low compression. So I'm spotting in here. Oh, Debbie's got a problem. If you bought it for $2.99, you should be able to upgrade to this one. What was the price? Was it $2.99 again? Or $1.99 again? I paid $9.99 because I didn't already have it, and I was quite happy with that. That was okay for me. But it looks like you've got ads in it now. Oh, that's not good. Maybe you could roll back to the last version, unless it's all coming from them. Right, okay, so that's what we got with that one. So I'm going to take this down to low compression. You can see as I'm going between these compression options, it doesn't take the same amount of time to recompress it. It knows that you've already looked at that, so it's virtually instant. Now, at that point, let's look at the interface, because what we've got on the left is the uncompressed file. On the right, we have the compressed file, but across the top here, where it says 1 of 1 selected, this is like a track of open files. So if I wanted to open another file, let's go for something hugely different. I think it's picked that up. We can put that in there, and now we have this thumbnail track building up. So you can work with multiple files at the same time. You don't have to close them down. So this one's compressed down to 9.7 at low compression, saving 70%. And again, I can scroll through it and see how good or bad that actually is. And this one had quite a few graphics in it. Again, screenshots are the trickiest kind of graphics, because you instantly know when you look at the text whether it's pixelated or not. Whereas something like that, you can hardly tell the difference. And something like that, you can hardly tell the difference. So if what you've got is maybe a photo book, you can probably get better compression out of that than I would with this, because I need the text to be readable. So it very much also depends on the type of document that you've got. But I love the fact that you can work on multiple documents at the same time. So let's have a look at those. I think I've got two more. which it says are full quality, but I'm wondering if they are or not. I must admit, because they're too small. They're only about 6 meg. So I'm bringing these in so we can see that I've got lots of different files open. And instead of just having a thumbnail, it's actually giving me useful information up here. It's showing me, this one has actually compressed down, hasn't it? So it has actually done quite well. Let's have a look at the pictures we've got. Now this one's easier because these are not, you can see for a start, these files were smaller than the other ones anyway. That's for 2 reasons. There were fewer pages in it with fewer graphics on it. So the brush collection and the photo one had got a lot of content. These had fewer pages. But also the images that are in it are not as detailed as screenshots. So irrespective of whether I'd got 20 pages in each, the one with the screenshots would have been bigger anyway. So those were smaller to start with, but I could probably get away with more compression on them as well because it's not just text. It does better with images like these images than it does with text. So those are quite good to start with, 1.4. That's about what I would expect from the church newsletter. It would start off around 3 to 4 meg. Sometimes it's crazy, like you get one and it's like 16 meg and I'm like, what graphic have you put in there? And it'll end up being a headshot for somebody that's like 4K that's been put in as a thumbnail. So it's like, we don't need that at all. So we can squidge that down a lot. So it might go from 16 meg to a meg just because of this single graphic. So it's more of an art and a science, depending on the contents, etc. But you can see what you've got in there. And I just love the fact of how you can work with them like that. So what I'm going to do next is look at the options that we've got here. So across the top, you can add items where I've done it by dragging and dropping. You can take them away. You can also, with this, move up and down. So this is moving you page by page, up and down, which I've done via scrolling. Zoom in and out, which I've been doing at the bottom, but you can do that up here. And you can go to 1x, which is like you're seeing 100% of it. What else have we got here? Zoom to fit the width. So if you want to use all the space on your screen, zoom to fit the width. And this one at the end is zoom to fit the entire page. So I actually prefer the width because it makes comparing it easier, but you do have all of those options. So the compression options that you've got here, you've got 2 sets of options to work with. You have compression options and you have destination options. So the compression options, there are 2 types of them. So there's automatic, and that's the 4 options that we've looked at. You've got your low compression, medium, high and extreme, remembering that they are backwards to a lot of other apps. But you also have the option to avoid the automatic version and try doing this manually. If you go into manual, you can see straight away this one went up, so this one's now 6.1 meg, so 1.9. No, that's not great, is it? But by switching to manual, you then have different filter types. You can go for graphics or you can go for quartz. And quartz is a built-in macOS thing that is actually used. If you ever look at the properties of a PDF you've created from your OS, you'll see it says Quartz Composer. So that's what it's talking about. And with Quartz selected, you then have presets. So in there, come on. That's it, stay where you are. You can have medium quality graphics at 50 dpi, 72, 144, 200. So you've got all of these options here, and this will obviously impact the file size and the savings that you get. So if we went for Retina, which is 144 high quality, we should get a little bit more compression out of it. So now, instead of 6.1 meg for the file, it's 4.2, and it's compressed by 32.5%. If we do a comparison here, where we go full width, you can hardly tell the difference at all. So actually, maybe I could take that up even more if we went for medium quality. And now we've got 2.4 meg, and you can still read it. That is still clear. The text is going to be fine. As I say, it's vector. But these images are absolutely fine. Can't see a difference between them at all. So let's go down to the low quality Retina, which is 144, and see if we can start to see a difference. I think at that point there is a slight difference, and I would say that the saving that you're getting in here probably isn't worth it. So 2.3 to 2.4. So I wouldn't make that change. I would leave that there. So it's pretty much trial and error, and it will change depending on the document and the contents of the document, but you get total control with these options. So you could take the resolution down a bit or up a bit if you wanted. You could change the colours, and you can change the quality of the JPEG. So if we left it at medium, 144 DPI medium, but we then took this up, you can see it flicks to say custom, and I'm taking the quality from 50 to 60. It's upped it by just 0.1 on that. So instead of 2.4, it's 2.5, but the quality is a bit better. Right, these at the moment that we're looking at. So remember that we've drilled down from auto into manual, and we're looking at quartz. We've looked at the presets, but we've now got a custom one, and we're looking at the image options. So you are drilling down quite a way with this. Then in the advanced options over there, if you have any of those available, so the alternate images, page thumbnails or whatever, you can choose to take them out. I mentioned that briefly last week. If you take out the thumbnails, yes, you'll get a file saving. The file will be smaller, but it will open slower because the thumbnails then have to be generated at the point the file is open. So this is a trade-off between the file size and the experience that you want the reader to have. So I always tend to leave those in there. Right, so I'm going to go back up to the level of quartz. So we're still in manual, but instead of being quartz, I'm going to switch to graphics. And that recompresses it. Has a look at that. And in this one, the text is still selected, but you can see it's now only 800k. And you can still read that. That's pretty impressive as well. So if you are confident in terms of making your own changes, you can get a lot more compression out of this by using the manual settings. So that at the moment is set to 60% for the JPEG at 144, and it's doing quite nicely, and it's less than a meg, and the original was 6.2. So have we got any questions at that point? Right, go on. I thought we might have, so we'll do those.
One question from Renee. Does it create a new file, or do you need to rename it?
That will all become clear when we look at the destination options. So we looked at auto, we've looked at manual, and we've looked at the two different options within manual as well. All of that is to do with your compression. The second set of options is the destination. So you get to decide whether it replaces the original or whether it should stop and ask for a destination folder when you export it. Third option is to set a default destination. So you could create a folder called compressed PDFs and save them all to a single folder. You've also got some options in here, extra ones at the bottom, where you want to maintain the source folder structure, whether you want to overwrite existing files. So if you had a file in there, do you want to overwrite it or not? So if you've already compressed this, and you've saved it, but you've decided you're going to change the compression, do you want to overwrite the existing compressed files? A nice option is, do you want to keep the original file creation date in the output file? That is cool. I like that one. So what I did with it was say, ask for a destination on export. Now, all of these, I have 4 files open. If I'm working on this last one, I have a button at the bottom to export it. That would be just this file. But you also have the option here to export the lot. So if you were working on a dozen files, like I usually am, and getting confused, and ratty, don't I? I get ratty, don't I? Yes. He said that publicly. He's in so much trouble. Right. Then what I could do with them is tinker around with the settings, make them different for each one, but go for a single export at the end of the process. But we'll keep it simple with this. This is the free apps. So I'll just export that. So it should come up after it's had a think about it and prompt me. Where are you going? Oh, you think you're going there, do you? Well, we can put you there if you like, but that's a cloud service, so we probably won't. So let's go in there. These are the files. I'm going to make a new folder for this, and we can call this compressed, and we will stick it in there. And hopefully it will be the right size. So it tells you that it's completed successfully. You can open the PDF if you want. When you choose to open the PDF, you're not choosing to open it in PDFOptim. You are choosing to open it in the default app that is handling PDFs. And eventually it might open. There we go. So mine's set to Acrobat. It's not the fastest app to open, but I'm grumpy with PDF Expert at the moment. So what I've got in there is, if we go to this, I've got all my thumbnails. And it should be compressed. So you have a look at that while I go find the file in the file system. Gosh, everything's running slow tonight. Okay, there it is. So it's in the compressed folder. There's the file name. There's the fact it's today and the time, and it is 811K. So it is bang on accurate. Bang on accurate. And looking at it, not seeing a difference. Oh, possibly at the edge there. So I might have to have a look about whether I want to use drop shadow. Drop shadow might be an issue, but the rest of that is pretty good. I am okay with that. Yep, that all looks great, including the back. So I'll close that from there. Now, at that point, are you thinking about it? You are, aren't you? At that point, I actually have here this file that we've just done. So I'll save to the same place, but this time I'll save all four. So this is when this overwrite existing files comes into play. If I don't tick that, it's going to stop and say, do you want me to overwrite this? But technically, if I put a tick in there, it shouldn't. We should just end up with 4 files in that compressed folder. So I will hit the export all, and it will ask me where I want them. And you can see that that file is in there. But I did tick overwrite it, and it doesn't stop and say, do you really want to overwrite this? Right, if we have a look at the Finder, you can see that the desktop apps one, was it desktop apps? It was that one there, was 2147, but it's now 2149. So I know it's this one, isn't it? That's the one. It overwrote it, no complaints, which I think that's a great option. That is a great option, because when you're exporting these things, you're like, oh, I'll change the name or I'll put it in a different folder because I don't really want to overwrite anything because it might not be the right thing. If you create a compressed folder and you save everything in there, you can just keep overwriting them until you're happy with all the settings that you've got set. So this is, as far as I'm concerned, the most fully featured way to compress and work. It's basically a dedicated studio for doing one thing, which is compressing PDFs. But you have so much control in here. And just the fact that you've got them side by side is amazing. But the other thing is that track at the top where you can work with multiple files at once. I just think that is fantastic. Now, I have exported them. So up here, you get in here to change the order of them, whether it's by name, date, size, the page count, the compressed size and the percentage. So it could reorder these based on how you want to work. If you've finished with one and you definitely know that you don't, we're going to carry on working with the other 3, but I don't want to work with this one, then you can in here just remove the selected file. So you can choose from up here to show them in the Finder and export them and everything, or add a new one. But with this one, I don't want to remove them all. I just wanted to remove this one because I'm happy with that and I've dealt with it. And that closes that, leaves me with the other 3, and I can carry on working. You might wonder why on earth you would have 3 files open and doing this. But if you look at this one, which is 5.6 meg, and this one is 9.7, I wonder why. There's less compression on this one. So it is handy to leave them open, so you can think, I'd like to get the compression on this up to maybe 80%, so I can get the file size down to 6. So you could carry on working with this. At the moment, it's set to auto low compression. But if we don't worry about the destination and we go back into the compression, you can, of course, switch that to manual. And we're at 200 dpi high quality, which is making the file bigger, not smaller. But we went in there and we said 144 medium. So what size would that be? And, that is way too big as well. So it was doing a better job on the auto one with this. But you could just carry on playing around with these settings and seeing if you can get that as low as you want. Some of them you'll need an auto, some of them will be better on manual. We go into graphics, what we got in here? It's still 5144, but now it's only 4.7. So the first thing I'd be doing is looking at the quality. And as I said, these kind of images are very forgiving. I can tell that this brush on the right is slightly blurred by comparison to the brush on the left, but you can't really tell. You would tell on text. So let's find some with text on, but that is perfectly readable. And I was aiming for 6 meg, but actually it's only 4.7. So by having the other two open, I'm doing like a mental comparison of like, I know I'm not going to get it down to something like 1 meg, but if I could get it to somewhere similar to this one. Mike and I do that when we're actually putting pages up to distribute these things. And we aim to have a graphic that is less than 400k. Obviously, that's not compressing a PDF, but we have an aim that we're aiming for. And I would do the same in here. Try and get the best quality, but the smallest file size that I possibly can. Now, if it's a separate app, so it's not your standard PDF app, it's not setting this up at the point of export from wherever it's coming from, be it Word or Pages or Affinity Publisher or Microsoft Publisher, wherever it's coming from. It's a separate job. It is then a separate job in post-production. But that can be beneficial because at the point I'm creating the file, I'm in Affinity Publisher, which is where these originated, and all I want to do is export the file to a PDF. At that point, I'm less concerned about the size of it because it's then going off for proofreading. So Mike will proofread it using a system that we use in Dropbox. And he will put comments where, did you mean this? Or usually it's that there should be a comma here or you've missed a full stop. I think you've got that on a macro, haven't you? I'm a menace with commas. So I don't want to go through the process of fiddling in here and having it absolutely compressed perfectly because now there's errors in it. So I don't do any compression at all until the very last job. And at the point it's compressed, I'm hopeful that there's no mistakes. If you find any mistakes in these things, do let me know. But I'm hopeful there's no mistakes, so I don't mind taking a little bit more time to get better compression out of it because I know I'm not going to have to do it 3 and 4 and 5 times. So that is PDFOptim. Now, there is an iOS version. And I'm wondering if they're bringing out a new version. I have no inside knowledge of this. But the options that I have in here are nothing like the iOS options. And the iOS version is 4.8 point something, and this is 5.01, I think, or 5.1. So I'm wondering if they may add more options to the iOS version. I will attempt to find out, but we can take a look at that when it's updated. It just doesn't have the same options at all. So again, we all know my mantra, don't we? It's an iPad. No, it's a toy. It can do amazing things, but ultimately there are jobs that are better done on a desktop. Just admit it. I mean, much as I love Obsidian and much as I can access everything in Obsidian on the iOS app, you try moving a line up and down. First off, you've got to select it. There's 10 minutes gone. And once you've got it selected, there's no option for moving it up and down because the iPad doesn't support that. So I get grumpy. I get very grumpy when Apple say to me, it's a proper computer. No, it's not. It's a toy. But it is a capable toy. To be honest, when I look at what Affinity have done with Affinity Publisher, it's a very capable toy, but it really does depend on the actual application of the app. Have they built in, this business of you can have one app for the iPad and have the same one on the desktop? How can you do that? You interact with them in 2 different ways. And to me, the application needs to accept that. And some of them do, some of them don't. Affinity Publisher for iPad isn't, you would recognise it from the desktop version, but ultimately it is a different app with a different interface that suits the device. And some of these apps just don't. It's like, it's desktop quality app, yes, and I need a keyboard and mouse to get the best out of it. That annoys me, but there you go. So, have we got any questions?
Nope.
Debbie's just realised first bought it end of January. I'm not sure when the latest version came out, but we always have a joke here, Mike and I. Do you update your apps before an event? So there I am tonight. Mike had headed off to make dinner after our epic captain's table session. And I went into the App Store and it said there was an update. And I thought, oh, you're kidding me. And I thought, just do it. Just do it. If it all falls apart, it's fine. Just do it. So that one was actually updated today. I do have the very, very, very latest ones of those. Oh, Debbie says Zoom Notes iOS version runs rings around the desktop version. That's it. Sometimes they do. Good Notes is an example of that. Good Notes on the iPad is fabulous. The desktop feels like, oh yeah, we need a desktop app. There you go. It's basically a reader. So it depends on the app. Some apps are way better on the iPad because they're built for iPad. But just like I showed you last week with Adobe Acrobat, that interface came from the iPad and has no place on my desktop. No place whatsoever. I loathe the interface of Acrobat. It used to be amazing. Was it version 11 you use at work or 10? I think there was an 11. But I'm not sure. But the one you've got at work, that's got a proper desktop interface.
No, I've got 11 now.
And does it look like mine?
Yes.
Oh dear. Fisher Price have landed. Okay, so if you do have any questions about that, let me know. That is how I am compressing my PDFs right now, because it gives me more control and I'm getting a better quality out with smaller file sizes. So definitely worth a look at. Okay, right. Let's head in there. Right, we've done mock-ups before. I know we have. We've done mock-ups in a million different ways. Originally, the way I used to do them was always Photoshop. I would get a smart object enabled PSD and I would do it the manual way. And I got really good results. There was nothing wrong with that. I'm talking maybe 2011, 2012. And the fact that you could do a mock-up at all, you were doing well. But as time went by, there was a service arrived called Placeit that worked on the web. They got bought out by Envato, so that went paid for. So another thing that we've looked at is a desktop and mobile app called MockView. And MockView was totally free and it was amazing. And then that went subscription. So I'm always looking around for the next iteration of mock-ups. I do remember spending an obscene amount of money on these mock-ups in 2011, 2012. I didn't think it through. I didn't think it through. The mock-ups that I had were the new iMac. Luckily for me, the new, massive air quotes, iMac is still sat on my desk now. You couldn't tell the difference between what's on my desk now and a mock-up from 2011. But unfortunately, the iMac on my desk, the 27-inch, is no longer made. The 24-inch is a different size, it's a different shape, it's a different colour, and my mock-ups are out of date. So, what makes magnificent mock-ups is the ability to have them updated when you need them and be infinitely customisable. Also, as I say, Placeit went paid for, as did a lot of others. Or you're buying individual mock-ups and, they can be anything up to like $40, $50 each. This is free. It's cross-platform because it lives in a browser. And I've never seen anything that is quite as customisable as this one. It is currently free, but I cannot see how they can sustain this being free. But have a play with it while it's free. See if you want to carry on with it if it ever is not free. So let's go and have a look at this. Already got it open in a window here. Need to bring that window across there. Where's my mouse gone? Right, let's drag that across there. Full screen it. Lose the thing on the left and we're good to go. So it's called shots.so. Create amazing mockups. So as it says, it's currently in beta. I don't know what's going to happen when it's not in beta. They could make it paid for on a subscription basis because there's a server cost involved. They could enable you to have maybe either lower resolution images for your downloads or maybe put a watermark on it. I don't know. But that's where we're at the moment. So I've taken a screenshot that I had earlier that we'll work with, and I will take a couple more. But what we're looking at here is the interface. So initially at the top, you have the option to choose a mock-up or a frame. And this is set to mock-up. Frame in there would give you would then set the frame up that you want around it, but we'll stick with mock-up at the moment. Right, you then choose the type of mock-up. So this says screenshot. So I actually had a screenshot, so I will drag and drop my image onto there, and there's my screenshot. It was the opening slide from tonight's Prezzo. So I've added it in there, and it's now going to enable me to create like a showcase for that screenshot and customize absolutely everything. Now I know your eye's going to be drawn to the right, so shall we look at the right first? You've got the straight on option, but you've also got a whole range of options that if you think about it, imagine you're sat there in Affinity Photo, Affinity Designer, Adobe Photoshop, and you're thinking, oh, I need to twizzle it and bend it and 3D it. It would take longer than this, where you literally just click on it and you've got all of these options. So there is a huge range of options in there for that. That one doesn't look bad, does it? Gives me a little bit of negative space at the top as well. But, well, let's leave it at that. And no, we'll go back to this so you can see all four corners. That's an idea. Right. Right, so at the moment we've got a style of default. There is also the ability to stack it. So it gives the impression of a stack. And all of these, the changes that you make in the style here, if you were to go back over here and choose a different look for it, will come through, which is very clever. Right, we got a retro look. We've got borders that we can put on it. I saw glasslight and read that as gaslight, but that's just me. So these are all the options that you've got up here. So I'm going to take that back to default because I'm going to work through the rest and we may get some weirdness if I don't. Now I thought the corners on this were too rounded, but that is controllable. If you would like them square, you can make them square, or you can make them even further rounded. I don't mind a little bit of rounding like that, but I think that looks better if it's a screenshot. So these down here are presets, so curved or rounded. So you can set that up in there and then fine tune it at the top if that is what you would like. Then you've got the options to change the shadow. So that shadow is making it look mighty dark, to be honest. So you could turn it off. You could turn it on so it's soft, and that does spread quite away. Or you've got the options for hard there. And you can also tweak it so you've got very little shadow or make it look absolutely hideous. These remind me of screenshots you used to get in manuals for Windows 3.11 when it was basically black and white and the shadow came through as solid black. But you have a lot of control in here with this. Even better, because if you know, all of that could be done in an app. But even better, you can scale and position this content. So scaling it, you can scale it down, you can scale it up. Now, obviously, you wouldn't want it hanging off the end, but you could scale it up if you needed it to be a certain size. And the thing with that is, let's get it back to the middle. It isn't just on the straight on view like that. You've got these views over here, and I said one at the bottom wasn't bad, that one. But what I can do with that is scale it down if I need more space, or up like that if I only need a tiny bit of space. So what you have on the left-hand side in terms of tools is interacting with what you have on the right-hand side in terms of layout. I'm going to take that straight back up there, and we will take it back to the middle. Because the next bit is the position of it. And again, if you were doing this in an app, it would take a lot longer. But you can move this down so you've got a lot of negative space to work around. You can move it up. I mean, that's not great. It's hanging off the end. But you can move it wherever you need to move it. So you could just tease like that. I could have put Peter's poster up there, couldn't I? Just as a tease. But it gives you a lot more negative space to work with. You could also integrate the two. So I've got that hanging off fractionally, but then I could make that bigger. So I could take it, so we've got the text at the bottom. Might want to move Wolfie in a bit. Let's have a look. Maybe you want to do something like that and you've got some space at the top. You can also decide here, so let's say that wasn't bad, but I want a bit more Wolfie in it. You can move the thing in and lose it off the other side if you want. So if I just wanted it there, but I want more wolf. So I've got negative space at the top and like that. So it is hanging off, but I can't see the rounded corner. And this one, I might want to bring it up a bit so we can see that Wolfie's not stood in midair. So it's very, very customizable. Very customizable. Once you've done it and you are happy with it, so let's assume that I'm happy with that. Although I did think there was another thing. Oh yes, before I export it, I will show you that the frame here is what size do you want it, and also what you're doing with the background colour. So I wouldn't particularly want it framed at 4:3. 16:9 would probably be better for me. So that gives me something that works on a slide. Then you've got options in here. I think this one is the kind of grain thing. I think it is. And you've got what background colour you want. You want it transparent. You can have solid colours. So you might decide to have that on green, which does not look good. Orange probably for MacBites. But you've also got access to these gradients as well. So we've seen it on a gradient. You can put it on very different gradients if you want. You also have the fact that you can change the background to a desktop background instead. So I think that one, is that Ventura or Monty? Could be Biggles, not sure. I think that one could be Ventura. But if you wanted to showcase an app against a desktop background, you could do that. Then we can go all psychedelic. No, I'm not saying I would ever use these. But your mileage may vary. Maybe you like things that look like that. I don't. You've got holographic things here as well. Obviously, these work better with the more negative space you have. And finally, you've got your mesh gradients in there. So I'm sure some of these will look reasonable, but not necessarily with a dark navy blue. I actually think the one it had wasn't bad, or possibly something a little bit lighter. That's not bad, is it? But I think that's probably better. Or like I said, a solid one. Right, at that point, once you've configured all of that, make sure that's the way that you want it exported, because now when you're looking at these, because you've changed the scale, these have changed their entire look as well. So one of these might, you might prefer that one. Let's have a look what we've got here. That's not bad, but it doesn't have the date or anything on it. But of course, I can go back to the mock-up and everything is still editable in terms of moving this. No, we're not moving it that way. That's not bad. Let's move it that way and bring it up. So you could actually bring it up so you could see the date and the time if you wanted. So let's do that one. So we've got everything on it. Probably move it that way a bit so it's hanging off at the top, but Wolfie's still there. And then you can download it. So you literally just hit the download button, it starts the export, and it saves it to your downloads folder. So I'm going to find it in my downloads folder. It's downloaded a PNG, so I am swiftly moving that to where it needs to be from my downloads folder. And I will show it to you. Making me do everything twice tonight. So this is the after hours thing that we started with, which it will show you. There we go. That was a 4K image, so it was a quite large image. And that is what we have downloaded. No watermarks and not low quality. That one is a PNG. Size-wise, what I uploaded was 850k and what I downloaded was 1.8 meg. Probably because it needs to be bigger than the actual artwork and you've got drop shadow on it and all kinds of things going on there. Right, that's not bad if it's a screenshot, but we can do better than that, can't we? Right, I think I had one of these. Let's have a look. What have I got here that I could use? Let's do that. So I'm taking a screenshot on my phone and I am going to ping it to my desktop. So it's actually live. You can see all the 47 people that are wanting me to talk to them. Right, where are we going? Mohawk, that's where we're going. So I'm sending this image to the desktop machine, taken right now, which you'll be able to see from the time on it. And we are done there. Right. That will also have gone in my downloads folder, which it has. So prepare to see it. There's my phone. I've got one thing that's overdone. The 6 in PIM, not overdone. But the 47 people that want to talk to me, I think some of those are on my phone, phone notifications, and I think some of them are like 2 years old.
Oh.
I'm not good with comms. What can I say? But I want the image. The image is what I want, so I can put that in another mock-up. So the mock-up that we've looked at is a very generic mock-up. What we're going to look at is the other options that we have when it comes to mock-ups. So back in here, we will go to the mock-ups. In the screenshot, you have other options. So there's Essentials, which is a screenshot and the browser. There's also the iPhone 14, the 14 Plus, the 14 Pro, the Pro Max, and then backwards to a few. I don't think it goes back to as old as mine, which is the 11. But you also have here iPads, laptops, desktops. No 27-inch iMac. Thanks for that, Apple. But I guess I wouldn't be creating something with a device that wasn't available anymore anyway. So I'm going here. This one is 16:9 ratio, so we can use the image we've actually got. So show you this one first. So what we've got there is this, but with the settings that we'd already set. So it's hanging off at the top because we changed stuff. So it might be a good idea to just refresh the thing so we can start again. So we lose all of the settings that we had in there. So in the screenshot, I'm going to choose that iMac being 16:9. And that is what it would start with from a clean start. So I think having the orange one is a good idea because I probably want orange for MacBites. It took its time to change, but it's done it. So I'll first of all add the after hours to it. Drag and drop that in, the one we've used. And now we have that and a showcase. That's it. So you can do all of the same things. So if you wanted to scale that up a bit, because you have got the space, you can do that. It is feeling a bit sluggish with this one, so I don't know how big this file is. These still work the same, so if you want them hanging off the end, you can do. Like that. But centre makes most sense, doesn't it? But you've also got these options over here as well, where it can focus on certain parts of it, if that's what you choose to do. You've seen you can change the style of it. And you've got options in the frame as well. So behind that, you might choose to have a complement. If anything, oh dear. If anything can complement the colours that we've got by choosing the orange one, I think we're better with that, aren't we? But these ones you would now see a little bit more. So maybe the orange one there. Oh, this is vile, isn't it? Leave them alone. Best advice, leave them alone. Now this, if you look at it, the actual image that will be downloaded, although I uploaded a 16:9, which was the poster, this is not what you would get because it's set to 4:3. So I would need to go into there if I wanted the whole thing as a slide and change that. And what happened was it made it a little bit smaller in terms of height, but much wider, so it would work on my slides. I guess the only other way to work with it would be to make the background transparent, and that way it doesn't matter what size it is. I would still change this for the output size that I wanted, so I don't have to fiddle at the point I'm taking it into a presentation or something. And having a transparent background is pretty useful anyway, because you can use it in many different ways. So that one is the iMac. So I'm going to refresh that again, just so everything resets. And we'll have a look at one of the phones. So should I take my screenshot and put it on one of these snazzy phones? I think it'll fit the Plus, won't it? Let's find out. Let's choose that one. Right, so again, it's loaded in the framework and it's saying drop your image in. So we do have the image that I have of my phone. Oh yes, that looks perfect, doesn't it? Apart from the fact I haven't got the island thing at the top, but never mind. Everything else is there, as you can see. I moved Facebook to my home screen a couple of years back. I'm thinking of deleting it, never mind moving it away. But that's what's on there at the minute. You'll notice there's a missing icon. I uninstalled an app and I haven't chosen which one to go there yet. But what you've got here is, this is the Midnight phone. You can change the actual phone. So that's the blue one. There's the funny purple one that we were talking about. And we've got the red one. And is Starlight pink? No, it's kind of sort of spangly, isn't it? Like glitter. There you go. You've got all the same options in terms of shadow. And that does feel like a lot of shadow to me. But that could just be me. You can also scale and position it, so you can move this around just like you could with the other. So if you wanted to have that where you've got a lot of text on a slide, you could do that. You could move it one way or the other. It actually looks quite good on the right, but if you wanted that to be on the left and put the text over here, you could do that. You've also got up here, so I'm going to put it back in the middle, these placements that we were talking about. It could even have brethren. So you could put two side by side. That'd be Siri and Lady Siri. So you've got all these options. You've even got 3 lined up. So what you would normally do with that is duplicate the thing and fiddle with it. But in here, it's already there for you. So if you're showcasing an app, absolutely perfect. This is just so fast. So fast. So like that. I've only got the one screenshot, but let's put it in the other ones. So we get 3 copies of it. There we go. Same process for everything else. So if you wanted to scale it up, scale it down, change the position of it, and change the background stuff. So if you wanted to change the colours, that kind of works with my purpley background. That one just, it's not good. But there you go. You could also, I'm beginning to warm to the transparency. That way I can create my own gradient. But I've still got the drop shadow on that. The frame as well, let me put a background on it so you can see. Because again, if I want that on a slide, under the frame, change it to 16:9. And it doesn't, if you were to try and do this in an app, it would be a long job. In here, it's not a long job. So there is one for the phone. What others did we have? Let's refresh that. And the browser was rather cool. Where's the browser gone? There we go at the top. Right, it gives you 4 main options with the browser. So what I'll do in that one, we'll load our after hours in. There we go. So first of all, it's Safari, and it's Safari in light mode. You can change that to Safari in dark mode. But if you prefer to see it in Chrome, you can also have the Chrome on it, if you're with me, the Chrome around it, in light or in dark. One thing I will say with that is, I know it can't really do that without prompting you, but it would be really nice if you could type in a URL and you know, have a fav icon and stuff. You would have to download it and do that manually. Again, I would want that to be 16:9. So I'd have to be looking at the frame and changing the frame to 16:9 and then changing back to in here and making the changes that I want. So how do I want that shown? And that's not bad if I'm trying to showcase it. And I would probably move it down as well. So I've got some negative space at the top. So it doesn't really matter what the thing is that you're designing, whether it's for the phone, whether it's for an iPad, a desktop, laptop, or a browser. All the features work exactly the same way. As I say, don't know where they're going to go in terms of payment for this. It feels like a subscription to me, but it isn't at the moment. So it's a good way to work right now. Beyond that, can't say. So, do we have any questions on that?
We don't have any questions. We have a comment from Debbie who says, "This looks pretty cool. Thanks for demoing, Elaine."
Right, okay. Glad you enjoyed that. Oh, somebody says my iMac. It's Graham. Graham's iMac. Yours is silver, is it? I have a recollection of it being silver. Could be wrong. Weren't some of the colours more expensive?
I think so.
They had... Oh, what was the difference? Oh, was it a faster internet connection on the power supply or something? And I'm like, but I just like the orange one. I know that's more expensive.
Deb has put some mock-ups in Slack, and Peter has put some photos of the dogs with grovelling apology as well.
Oh, excellent. I would have uploaded it already, wouldn't I? But we had a discussion about hashtags. So I'm going to be uploading it. It is actually totally finished, Peter. I could show you the file, but that would do no good, would it? It would be no good just seeing the file name there. I'm going to upload it as soon as I've finished because it will take a while to process. It is 16 minutes, 34 seconds, Peter, and it's 4K. So how long do yours usually take?
An hour or two.
Well, mine's probably 4 times the length of yours.
Yeah.
It's going to need to process overnight, but it will be there tomorrow. Oh, the excitement.
Jamie says, has Elaine got a new phone? Just realised the notch in the screenshot was smaller.
Let me have a look at the actual screenshot. Let's have a look. Well, I certainly didn't go for the yellow one, did I? No, that's the screenshot. It didn't have any kind of notch in it. So what's caused the notch is what I've chosen in here. Because I chose the iPhone 14 Pro Max, it had the island in it and stuff. If I'd have chosen a different one, it would have had the wider notch or no notch at all. So no, it's doing that. The software service is doing that. Oh, Graham says it is. I thought it was silver. I would have probably ended up going for the silver. I did contemplate the orange, but only because of MacBites. And then I came to my senses, didn't buy any at all. I'm holding out. It's a battle of wills between me and Timothy. I don't know how that's going to end, but I've got a shrewd idea he might win because he doesn't need my money and I need a Mac. Darn it. But there you go. Okay, right. Peter says something to look forward to in the morning. Yeah, after the dog walk. I'm expecting those dogs to be treated handsomely this weekend. I think they need an extra long walk and lots of treats. Right, let's come out of that then. So let's lose that and go back into here. Oh, freebies. Right, I have got a freebie. Why are you not moving? Playing with my mind again. Go on. Oh, well done. Right, I have got a freebie. The first one is totally free, but I've also got a discount. So the first thing is an illustration, complete illustration with all those characters in it. And it's for Biodiversity Day. I'm not at all sure what that is, Mike. I know you said there was neurodivergency, and I've heard of that. I think I actually know what that is. Not sure about biodivergency, but what I did think was, if we all downloaded it, we could have an editing challenge on Slack where we move the animals around. I'd be liking that. And add an animal. There's no panda. Do you remember Pandemonium? Was it Pandemonium? In the paddle licensing department. That's right. So we could do that with it. So go download it and let me know. That would be good. So the next thing is that Divi, which is, it started off as themes for WordPress, but to be totally honest with you, it's gone beyond that. Divi is basically a platform that lives on top of WordPress. It drives all of our websites. We've had a lifetime license for years. We've got a team lifetime thing now, haven't we?
No.
Yeah, with libraries and all kinds of stuff. But basically it's their anniversary and they've got a big sale on. I think it's 40% off. So there is a link in there. Did I put the link in or not?
Yeah.
Oh, that was good of me. It's been that kind of week. I'm surprised. But I put the link in there. There are additional items that you can have, but basically all we've gone for is the actual core of Divi. It allows us to create very advanced layouts without all the trouble. Do you remember the bird?
Yes.
The first theme we had...
How could I forget the bird?
The first theme we had for MacBites was called called PDAWN. We called it PDAWN. It was that bad. We then upgraded to another one, and I loved that one. It had this space where you could put a tweet. But if you put one character too many in, this bird kind of just disintegrated. So we spent more time counting the characters for this area with this bird, and now we've got Divi. We don't worry about any of it. Nothing would ever get done if we didn't have Divi. So Divi is on every site we've got, I think, isn't it? Including the church site. And I remember thinking with the church site, it was like, oh, it's going to be easy, this. And then it was like, we need it colour-coded because we have 3 churches. I'm like, pardon? Conditionally colour-coded, and Divi managed to do it. Right, so we are on to our next part in Obsidian. So last week I said we could look at mobile or we could look at templates, and templates won. I got mails this week and templates won. I think it's because you will find when you search for Obsidian templates, lots of information about templates, but people are saying to me they don't work. And that's because there's 2 very different plugins for templates. So we'll look at that to start with. There is the templates plugin, which is a core plugin. So you do not have to, if you're one of these people who doesn't want any community plugins, you're in luck. There is a templates plugin that is part of the core of Obsidian. But there is also a community plugin called Templater. So it's only 1 character different, but it behaves very differently. So Templater, you need to enable community plugins. While it can do a lot more, whether it's worth your while going through all those hoops depends on your specific needs. But what's happening is people are enabling templates and then reading a tutorial that's for Templater and saying it's not working. The 2 are totally separate. So what I'm going to do tonight is show you how to install and configure both of them. So not at the same time, obviously, I will do it one at a time. So I'll start off with the core templates one, show you what that can do. If that is all you need, then you are good to go. But if you want to take it a bit further, then you need to look at Templater. So tonight I will install it and I will give you an example. And next week I will show you how amazing Templater can be when you link Templater with some other plugins. But it is very easy to get confused when you're reading tutorials, thinking it's the core templates plugin, and it's not. The tutorial is for the Templater community plugin. So that's where we're at. That's what we're doing. So I need to move that along there, and we'll go and have a look at it. So somewhere in here I've got 2 vaults open, and I do think they're already installed, but I will show you the installation process. That's my vault. Where's the other one? There we go. So let's get that open. I'll close the thing on the right, so it's about as basic as it gets. The reason that I've got the para file system open on the left is we're going to need to create some folders, and I will show you where I put them in my setup. I've never seen 2 vaults where the file system looks the same. It's personal preference. Mine is para supplemented by 2 additional folders. We've got the inbox at the top, which is basically where all my new files are created. The periodic notes underneath that, I've seen that called journal, diary, daily pages. I organise it where I have a folder for each year, and within that I have weeks at the top, and within that I've got my week pages. And then I have the months, and I put the number at the beginning so they appear in the right order. And then within there, I've got all of the pages for that month, and I also have an index for that month. So that's what is in the periodic notes. The rest of this is current projects, areas which are things that are continuing. So within an area would be the stuff I do for the church. I do that every week. It's not a project. I mean, it could be a project, but I have to create one every week. So because it's a job I do every week, it's an area, it's an ongoing area. Resources are where I put things that I need. So things I would refer to. If it's something that's old and I wouldn't particularly refer to it, I'll put it in the archive. Right, I'm explaining that because I'm going to have to create a folder to put my templates in. and I need to know where to put that. So in my system, your system will vary, but in my system, I decided to create a folder within resources that was for Obsidian. So if I open that up, we can see I've got Obsidian in there. And all of the stuff that is related to any plugins, any supporting files, anything like that, goes in that Obsidian folder. I'm not sure what I've got in there now. The Pomodoro timer. So the Pomodoro timer you can see on the right-hand side there is just a page. So I could actually click on that and it would show you what that was. It's one line with an iframe in it. But if I move off that line, it loads in a Pomodoro timer. I never open that page directly. There's no point. I have it loaded into that right sidebar. But where would I put that in my file system? It's not a project. It's not an area. It is a resource. But do I want it in its own folder? And I decided, no, I want as few folders as possible. So I put it in this Obsidian one at the top. So that's what we've got in there. So first of all, we are looking at the core templates. So command and comma, which will take us in here. And in the core plugins, we have this list. I think it's enabled by default, but don't quote me on that because it's enabled in here because I enabled it. But you have your core plugins in here. Some of them I turn off, like the audio recorder. Not happening. It would make my vault far too big. But in here, if we keep going down, you can see there are some turned off, like random notes and slides. But here is templates and it's turned on. So we need to configure this in a couple of ways to make it work. So you have the cog. If you don't have the cog, because we've had this discussion, some people seem to and some don't. You also have a list under core plugins of what you have installed and enabled. So clicking on that is exactly the same as clicking on that there. There's very few options. There's only the 3 that need to be set. And to be honest, you'll probably get away with setting 1. The first and most important setting to make the templates work is the folder location where Obsidian is going to find your templates. Now there is a path in there, as you can see. And that path has an emoji in it, which is the purple dot. That is coming from my main vault, because what I did was I took the settings of my main vault and shoved it in the demo vault. But that folder does not exist. Now, if you wanted to create that, you might wonder, why have you created in your own vault 3.resources/_ and then an emoji? The underscore forces it to the top of the list. And the emoji is purple, as in Obsidian purple. So my eye is instantly drawn to it. If you are synchronizing via Obsidian Sync, that's absolutely fine. But if you are synchronizing, it also works with iCloud when iCloud syncs at all. But if you're working with Dropbox as your sync device, then that won't work. Dropbox will not synchronize any folder that has an emoji in it. So in this one, I'm going to take that away. You'll see over here, it's actually Resources Obsidian, and I haven't even put the underscore in. So I need to change this up here. So if I take away what's in it, I get a list of all my folders. So it starts with the periodic notes, which is 0, pushing it to the top. And then I've got resources, but that would be the root of resources. So, as I keep going down here, you can see the years that I've got in the periodic notes. You can see an episode of MacBites I've got as a current project. And then I have resources, Obsidian. So that would be the place to put this. Or would it? Now, I've put my Pomodoro in there. But if I leave it like this, I'm going to end up with all of my templates for the templates core plugin at the root of that Obsidian folder. And for me, that didn't cut it. So what I would actually do is go to my Obsidian folder and create a new folder, and I'd call that templates. And that way, all of my templates are going to be in a single folder. It's just neat and tidy as far as I'm concerned. Some people never show that file panel in the sidebar, so they don't care where they are. They just leave the whole lot. You do need to specify where they are, but beyond that, they don't care where it is because they never look at it. I must admit, I tend to be a bit neat and tidy with it. So now that folder exists, if I go back into my preferences in here, you can see, as well as Resources Obsidian, I've also got templates, and I'm going to click that. That has done one thing. It has told Obsidian where to go and look for templates in the core plugin. The other two options, and the reason that you may not need to fiddle with them, is if you've not made any changes to the date format or the time format, then the defaults will suit you. So what we have here is, what it's telling you is to specify the date format. And you can see it's YYYY Now, is that right or not? Well, how do you know? Well, if you've clicked on one of these dates on here, so if we go to the first, that format there is YYYY with the dashes. So that's how we know that that is correct. Right, let's go back into here. So I actually don't need to make any changes to that. But if you have changed the format, you might want to change it in here, because what it can do is if you put date in curly brackets in your template, when you have an instance of your template applied, it will put in today's date. So you don't have to type it. So it's always good practice in here to put that in. Now, if you think, well, mainly I have the date like that, but in certain circumstances I'd like to have the day as well, then you can customize it either in here, which will do it globally for all templates. But if you actually read what this says, it says you can also use curly brackets date colon and then put a format in it. So you have two ways of doing this. This way, in this dialog box, is setting it globally. Right, it even tells you at the bottom that your current syntax looks like this. So you don't have to do the dance I did if you don't want to. It's showing you at the bottom. Exactly the same holds good with the time format. Curly brackets and the word time in lowercase. Put that in the template file and it will be replaced with the current time. And that is the syntax for it, and it shows you at the bottom 2237. You also have a format reference. So you can click on the format reference and go and get a list of what else you could put in there. So if you want the full day, whatever you want to do, you can do with that in there. So the three things you need to change is the template folder location, and you may need to create a template location before you set it in here. Then the date format, then the time format, and that is it. So we're ready to go at that point with the templates. But what might you want a template for? Now, what I've got, I have put some in here. I've got a basic one. What mine looks like, give or take, I'll copy it and I'll paste it in here so you can see it. So I'm copying this from my vault. It's not 100% accurate, but it's not far off. So I don't tend to have the time. I'm putting the time in to show you. But what this would actually look like in mine is that. So the first thing I do at midnight, because I'm usually up at midnight, and I've put this in the wrong file, haven't I? Let's take that out of there and get a new file. There we go. And close that one before I've added it. Oh, leave me be. Right, there we go. So what I would do at midnight, I'm working away in Obsidian. It's open all the time. I'm constantly making notes in it. It's more of like an interstitial journal. So when midnight comes round, I go to my new date and I add a template. Now I'm using Templater for a reason I will explain, but what we've got on there, give or take, you can create in templates. So I do like to keep track of any events that are important, what I'm reading and what I'm watching. So I can go back and think, what was that thing I was watching last May? And I don't watch that much, despite what Peter says. But I do like to keep a track of it. So those are just the three things that I put in there. The quick notes heading down here, there's a gap because that's where my interstitial journaling goes. This quick notes is to do with Raycast. If you remember, when I bring up Raycast and I type Obsidian, I can do an append to daily note. and it goes at the bottom of the daily note. So I put a heading in of quick notes, and every time I just add something to this, it will automatically add it underneath the word quick notes. So what we need to do with this is set it up in such a way that we make it a template. So I actually wanted the date and time up there. So that needed to be the date, and then underneath that I was going to put the time. So I've put it in like that. At the moment this is a new file, inbox, and it's untitled. Right, it would actually be my daily note. So I could put in there daily note. I may need this to be unique, but at the moment this will work fine. So this is going to be my daily note. Right, the first thing that's wrong with it, it would work as a template if I put it in the right place, but it won't work as a template if it's in the inbox. The file itself needs to be in the templates folder. Now you could drag and drop it, but that would necessitate going over here and finding it. And we've got lots of files in there from all of these demos. So let's not do that because that would take time. What we can do in here is use Command and P for your command palette and tell it to move it. So I just type move. And that's interesting. It's not moving it. Hang on. Oh, here we go. Right. Normally I only get one result for that. So move the current file to another folder and then tell it which folder. So I need to put this in the templates folder, and that's it. It's moved it. You could see that if you had this folder open, that file is now in there, but also at the top, the way I have this configured, and yours may look slightly different, I can see that straight away it's moved. Right, at that point, it's a template. It's not a very clever template. It's not doing anything automatic, but it is a template. So if I had a new file and we put test in there, and I want to put that in as a daily note, Command and T is the default. Now, it may be set, you may have to configure it. But if I Command and T, it actually puts that template in. It doesn't even stop and ask me anything. Now, you might say, well, why would it stop and ask you anything? Well, it would need to stop and ask me something if I had more than one template. But because I only have one template, it automatically puts that in. You must mean that one because you've only got one. And it puts exactly, you can see on the left, the daily note, it puts exactly that content in my new page. So far, so good. I use this extensively for notes of sessions. So what I'm going to do, I am going to open up my thing and I will get something that, let's have a look. That's a video. Let's try one of those. Right, so what mine actually look like, I take notes from sessions that I attend. So I'm part of the Build a Second Brain community. So I have some Build a Second Brain notes. So we're going to shut this test one down and make a new page here. So these would be my Build a Second Brain notes. Right, what do I want these to look like? Well, I would like them to look like that. So I have metadata at the top. And then I have headings below that. So I tend to do level 2 and I put in admin notes. So if a session has changed the time or date or something, I will put it in there. The other thing that I put in there as the next level heading is replay, because usually these things have a replay URL. So I put that at the top of the page. The next thing I put in, and this is very personal, your mileage will vary on this, is a level 2 heading, and I call it stated intention. So I want to know what was the idea behind this session. And I will put that in there as like, we were supposed to learn this or we were supposed to do that. Right. Because it's part of a cohort-based thing, there tends to be announcements. So I put a heading in for announcements. If there aren't any announcements, then I would delete it at the end. I also put at the top here another heading for recap, and that is if this is part of a 5-week series and we're on week 2, they might mention what we were supposed to know from the week before. So I put I put the recap in. The next thing I put in is an agenda, because there's usually, don't spell it like that, an agenda. So I would put the agenda in there. The next thing, as far as I'm concerned, is as we're going through these sessions where I'm making notes, various resources will be mentioned. So I put resources, and that means instead of having the resources mingled in with the notes where I can't find them, I make a special point of putting the resources separate. Finally, we get onto the actual notes I'm taking during the session. Then I have another one, which is chat. So anything in the chat that's interesting, I will make a note of, and that way I know it was from the chat. And then finally, I will have a summary of the session, which I do bother filling in. If they ask for feedback, I put the feedback that I gave. And the last thing that I have in here, aren't I anal with my notes? The last thing I have in here is to follow up. So if there's anything that I need to do before the next session or anything like that, I would do that. That is a template. Now, you may be wondering, you've got the date and time at the top and you've not put anything clever in there. No, I haven't, because the thing is, I create the pages for the sessions that I attend in a week during my weekly review at the weekend. So I don't want them to automatically fill a date in because the date won't be right. So I do go up there and I do then edit this and put in manually the date and the time and the presenter. But that is what my notes template would look like. So that's a genuine thing. That's what it looks like. So I've called that BASB Notes. Is it a template yet? No, because it's not in the templates folder. So if we move that, so this time instead of using Command and P and searching for move, I've actually used Command and M and I'm going to move it. So I only actually just have to start typing templates and move it to the templates. Now I have 2 templates. That's important because as I create another new page, let's have this as test 2. That's oh, that's clever, isn't it? Right. In here, now when I press Command and T, it shows me all my templates rather than just sticking one in. It could stick one in when there was only one. It can't do that as soon as there's more than one. So I don't want the daily note in here. I want some notes for my session. So let's say this. We had an expression session last night. So expression session. And what I would then do with that is to go into here. I actually cheat with the date because obviously if I put the date in, it's going to put today's date in, and it was yesterday. But I can Command and P and type date, press enter. It's giving me the 17th. All I need to do is backspace, press 16 and press enter. That obviously works better the closer to today the date is. And the time was, I think it was 9 o'clock. And I would put in a facilitator's name. Facilitator. Right. And then I would start using that. That's where my notes would go. Just having that framework's probably developed over about a year. And I instantly know most of my notes are in the same format. So I instantly know where to look for the feedback. What was the summary on that? What was the follow-up I needed to do? I instantly know, and that is what my notes would look like. So this is the template. This is the daily note template. So I'm going to lose that one. And you've seen that one in action. Let's enable something clever in here. So if you're making your daily note on the day or the date of that daily note, then at the top where you put the date, you may want the date to be put in automatically. You may also want something with the time in. Now, if we go back, it actually gives you the syntax. In here, it tells you curly brackets, 2 of them, and date will automatically be updated. So in there, if I get rid of that and I put in curly bracket, date, and do the same down there for time, and you can do that either by putting the curly brackets in or putting the text in and then selecting it and double curly bracketing it. It doesn't delete the word. It wraps the things around it. That is the only change. So this is just a standard markdown file. What makes it a template is that it's in the templates folder. And now we've added magic to it, so it will automatically add the date and time. Now, it makes actually more sense to have that. I have the date in the daily note. I don't have the time. But that date and time would be perfect to put into a notes template that you're going to use on demand. And that way you don't have to type what date it was and what time it was. It's automatically there. But what we're actually looking at now is the template itself. What we need to do in terms of working with it is to create a new page. So we'll do a date and time. And I could have other information in this file. I could have any amount of text in there, it doesn't matter. What I need to do to access the note on the left is Command and T and choose which I want. And it's the daily note at the top. And you can see it's put the date in and it's put the time in. It's actually replaced those two fields. So if what you need is that, in terms of all you need for templates is that you put text in, that sometimes you put a date in and sometimes you put the time in, then the inbuilt core plugin is sufficient. That's all you need. Another one that I put in is a timed note. And I've done this with a templater one, but to be honest, it's that simple. I could just use templates. So if it's simple, stick with templates, because it's a bit of a rabbit hole when you get to the advanced side of things, but we're going to look at it anyway. So that is templates. Let's close that and close that. And keep an eye on what we've got going on over here. In the resources folder, I have an Obsidian folder. In that, I have a folder for templates, and I have the Pomodoro, which is just separate. If I started having multiple Pomodoro style things, I'd create a folder for them. But are we okay so far, or do we have any questions?
No questions.
Kim says she should copy this for MacBites After Hours notes. That would be a grand idea. It's amazing how when I started, I had probably only half the number of headings, and I added them in just experience as I was going. And I've been taking notes for years, but I'd never actually thought of separating individual bits and things. Now I've been using the same system for a year. It's like coming home when I come to create notes. Instead of sitting down and thinking, oh, I need to scribble the date in the corner. Who's the speaker? You know, I've got absolutely everything that I need to know for the context of those notes in a single place, and it's predictable. So, and doing it at the start of the week. So on average, I would say I attend, probably somewhere between 8 to 10 mastermind come training sessions in a week. Doing them one at a time, just in time, so in the 5 minutes before the session starts, is one option. And if you did it like that, you would be able to automate the date and time. But for me, being able to do it as a batch at the weekend means I'm ready to go. I don't have to think, oh, I've got that session and, oh, I've not put the notes in. The blank page is there and it's ready to go, and it's made a massive difference. So let's have a look at the other option you have, which is to go community. So bringing up the properties again, it's not templates this time. You need to go to the community plugins. First of all, you need to turn on support for community plugins. So if you remember, there was that restricted mode where it was like, if you have any concerns whatsoever that you don't trust these things, then disable them. That lasted all of 5 seconds for me, because these are just fabulous. Things like the calendar is amazing, and then the periodic notes, the Kanban and the projects that we looked at last week. Not that I couldn't live without them, but you know, why bother living without them? It's fine. So in the community plugins browse option, you click browse and you put in there templater. So not an S at the end, but an R. As you can see, that's been downloaded 461,000 times. It's a very popular plugin. So I already have that installed in here. I'm hoping it's there. Right. Oh, it's not saying it is. And I was wondering about that. How bizarre. Okay, let's go back and we'll actually download and install it then. Don't know why it's not installed. Right, templater. So let's install that. Now, before we install it, there's all these instructions. And this can do a lot. It can do a lot on its own, but once you start linking it with other plugins, it can do even more. So I'm going to install that. It will take seconds. Initially, it's not enabled, but I'm going to enable it. You can straight from here get to the options, which is down the bottom here. And you can also get to that from the community plugins, templater, and your cog. All takes you to the same place. Right, there's a lot more in the way of options, but we won't be looking at most of those today. Right, what we will do is get this set up and configured just like we've done the last one, but take it a step further. So the first thing it needs, just like the templates plugin needed, was the template folder location. Right, one option would be to point it to the same place. I don't do that. I don't actually use the inbuilt templates plugin, it's turned off. But I was using it at the beginning until I knew better. I don't want to get them upset with each other. I don't want them cross-pollinating. So I would go to the Obsidian folder and make a new folder and call that templater. They are going to show side by side, but as far as I'm concerned, they're very different in terms of what I expect to see in there. The templates one would be incredibly basic, the templater one would be more advanced. As I say, I have no need to use both. You can use both, there's nothing to stop you doing that. The reason that I decided not to use both and take the most basic templates and put them in templater was I only want to remember one shortcut key to access them, not two. I don't want to have to stop and think, oh, was that in templates because it was basic? And the other one, you know, was in templater because it was advanced. So I don't use templates. I use templater. So we've got no file open at the moment, so let's make a new file. And we need to go back into here and tell it where to find it. So if we scroll down a bit, you've got your Obsidian in there, down a bit more. It's in there somewhere. Come on. There we go. There's templates, there's templater. So I will tell it to look in templater for that. Right. We've got access here to more documentation to support all of this. I think we should actually be good to go. With the basics. I don't think I need to do anything else with it. But you can bind a template to a hotkey if you want to. So if you have like that note session and you want it to be on a dedicated shortcut key, you can. I haven't done that. I have so many templates, it doesn't make sense to remember, you know, another 20 shortcut keys. So I think we should be good to go with that. So we've told it where they are. What we now need to do is create it. So I'm actually going to build something that's very similar to the daily note. So I'll take all of the text, because this is the basics of my daily note, and we'll put that in the file we were in. So let's go back and pop it in there. Now, I don't, on this one, I didn't want the time. All I wanted was the date up there. But I did want some extra stuff. But we'll do this basics first. Basics is what we'll do. So this one is also a daily note, but I'm going to put templater so I know it's this one and not the basic one. This is my templater one, not the other one. And I'm not going to do anything with this at the moment because it's not a template right now. It's not a template because it's not in the templates folder. So I need to move it to the templater folder. That has moved it instantly into there, and now it's a template that's available. But how do you use it? So I've got a new file. Let's put templater test in there. If only I could spell. Right. I would need a dedicated shortcut key, which I have. The one I chose was Command Option and T, because Command and T was the built-in templates. You could take Command and T if you wanted. If you never intend to use the internal one, then you could do that. But that is what I had set to it. And that lists me all of my templater templates. But if you're not a keyboard person, The only one you need to remember is Command and P, which is your command palette. And from in there, if you go into Templater, you can see you've got Open Insert Template. You can jump to a cursor location, all kinds of things in here. But if you just want to insert, now make a note here, the top 4 are Templater, but then you get templates and they do look alarmingly similar. But this one is the one I would probably go for. So we'll insert. That will show you what we had before. So I got to it directly because I had a shortcut key. All I need to do at that point is press enter and it will insert that. Notice you may look at it and think that's not correct because the date's not been automatically put in. That's because the syntax that we've used is the template syntax and not the templater syntax. So we would need to make some changes to that to make it work properly. So I will undo that and we will head back into here and we will update it and do it properly. The reason that I used templater for this and not templates is I actually wanted it to do more things. I needed it to be more clever. So I'm heading off to copy the code that I have from mine, which is under D for daily. Come on, let's open it. Right, there's a little bit more going on in this one. And again, this is my default one. I actually use this on a daily basis. So in here, I want to put between these 2 lines more than just the date. I want some navigation in it. So let's get rid of all of that. I've copied the whole thing from my other vault. And this is what it looks like. So the quick notes are the same, the lines are the same, the watching, reading and events and all day are the same. This is where it starts to differ. So I've got the line at the top, line in the middle, this one here. So it's going to look very similar. But the special part is the syntax. So how's that working? Well, this bit is going to build the navigation. This is the language that is supported in Templater that we'll go into in more detail next week. But what it's going to do, what you're saying to it is TP for Templater, date, now, in the format of YYYYMMDD, -1. So basically, yesterday. This one is today. Oh, in fact, no, that's tomorrow, isn't it? Hang on. 1, 2. Should be 3 in there. That one says 1. Have I only got 2 in here? I'm sure I had 3. We'll see when it works. The other thing that I've put in here is just standard formatted markdown. I've just said week 10, week 11, week 12. This week is week 11. How do we know that that's week 11? Because in the calendar over here, we've got an 11 next to Monday, which was the 13th. So I know that that is correct. That I update manually. I'm working on not updating it manually, but I've had this there for that long. Right, the next thing is just like the other one. Let's open that up so we can see it. That one. I do want the date put in there, but I want the date in a format that I can see the year, the month, the day, a dash, which is what that is, and the day. So I want to see Friday. I tried without, thinking leave it alone, it's not broken. And it's much easier for me if I know what the day is. So that is the syntax for that. That's the only difference. The rest of this is just standard text. So as I say, we'll get into the actual syntax details more next week, but let's just see if this works at the moment. So this one is our other one. We need our test thing or a new one. Did I save it? I think I did. Oh, it's in there. Never mind. Right, let's create a new one. So what we're looking at on the left is the instruction that Templater will use to create me a new day in here. In fact, I don't even need that, do I? What I'll do is I'll open one of these. That'll be good. Let's open today's. So I've opened today's. I haven't put any notes in there yet. But what I will do is Command, Option and T. There's my daily note template from Templater. And you can see what it does. it's got from the beginning. Yesterday, the 16th of March, and if I click on that, it will take me to the 16th of March. I've then got tomorrow, which is the 18th, it will take me there. I've also got direct access to all of the weeks. This bit here, how it did that was, it took the file title, which is 2023-03-17. It put that in, it put a space and a dash and another space, and then it put Friday in, and it did that with that code there. And what that means is the date right now, so today's date, in the format of a day, a full, so if it's Wednesday, it's not WED, it's the full day. And that's what I use. So as soon as I've created that, and I do that at midnight, like I've said, I will then, sometimes I will have text on the page because something's due that day or something. What that would look like is, let's do it on that page. Let's get rid of that and do it on that page, and I will show you exactly what I do. So let's say on this day, I need to know that at 2100 hours, and that will be a level 2 heading, and then the next level 3 is, it's MacBites After Hours. So MacBites After Hours, and today's show is 186. Right, I would highlight that and square bracket it to make it a page. And that will remind me that that was what was going on today. As my busy life continues, I may end up on this again and think to myself, right, okay, I need to do another one because at 5 o'clock today, we had the Captain's Table. So it's Captain's Table Mastermind. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Mastermind today. What I do, so I don't end up with pages with the same name, is I put the date of that at the end, and then I take that and I put square brackets on that, and then I have access to another page for those. So for instance, this one here, what would I do with that? Now I haven't built this up in Templater, but we do know that I've got my notes from templates. So in templates, I've got a daily note and my Build a Second Brain notes. Although that was Build a Second Brain, it's really easy to change that into a Captain's Table, because all I need to do is go in here and change the meta. Lose the first one, move into there, and I actually put, CT Mastermind. You can see I've already got one in here that was about niche in January. And we've got that one says inbox and it's there. Oh, well, let's put that one there. There we go. So it's that easy. And then navigate back. So I've got those on that page. That would happen maybe a week in hand. On the day itself, which is today, I move to the top, I give myself a couple of lines, and I go into my templater and I add the daily note. The only change I need to make is to move that quick notes down below anything that I already had in that file. And that's my day set up. And I do that every single day. What I would then do is go in and put the book that I'm reading. And it's something about design at the moment. So I would put the book in and I would put the author in. These, of course, would be linked. So I've got a record of when I read whatever I read. And if there are any events today, and I don't think there were any events today, then I would put something in there. But let's say like Maya's birthday, just to remind me. And I'm good to go. I've got all my built-in navigation. I've got all the timings that I've already put in earlier in the week, and anything that I add today can go in as a quick note at the bottom. So if I literally have no time to start adding meta to stuff, I just go to the quick notes and just add it at the bottom. And you are good to go. So we've looked at the templates plugin, which is the core plugin, and it's fairly basic. It can change the date and time. But the templater plugin can take you a whole lot further. What I've done with it there is fairly basic, and it can take you a whole lot further in two different ways. One, its inbuilt features, but also the way it can link in with other plugins, and that is what we'll look at next week. So while it's still there, have you got any questions on that?
No.
Everybody's asleep again, are they? It's not good enough. It's not good enough. Well, if you think of any questions, you can just send them in or bring them along with you next week. So, talking of next week, what have we got coming up? Well, I need to remind you, don't I? I need to remind you that the clocks have gone forward in the States. They have not gone forward anywhere else. So, hang on, wrong slide. That's the one. Where did that come from? That was strange. Right. Yes, the 17th of March, which is today, and the 24th next week, they're an hour later. So at least you won't miss it. We usually have complete havoc in the autumn, don't we? People have missed the first hour, but it's not as difficult this time. So next week, it is the same time if you are in the UK. It won't be... After that, we're in British summertime, which is a bit of a joke because it's still snowing. But that's where it will be. Now, we also have everything available on demand. So you need to go for that to youtube.com/Elaine Giles. There is a dedicated MacBites After Hours playlist. Underneath each video, you will find timings. So if you are only interested in the Obsidian stuff, just click the link underneath. We are unable to create those timings until Saturday morning, aren't we, Mike? Because if you do it before Saturday morning, for reasons best known to themselves, YouTube just goes mad and it changes the timings and then they're all off. So we leave it until Saturday morning, around the time that something else magical might be happening on the channel, Peter. So you will find that playlist at macbites.co.uk/after hours playlist. And of course, we love you guys. If you love us, give us a like. It really does make a difference with YouTube, gets the word out. And of course, you could subscribe, which would be even better because you would not miss out on anything that we do. So if you want first dibs on everything we do and a recap of all the live events, then you need to go to elainegiles.com/VIP. Those are the live sessions, etc. And the after hours and all the MacBites things you will find at macbites.co.uk/MacBites-mail. I should probably mention, and I should probably have a slide as well, that we do have a subscribable calendar, if that would help you. And you'll find that at macbites.co.uk under after hours. I'll make a slide with a link. There's also Slack, where we carry on the conversation. If you would like to join us on Slack, but you are not already a member, you can go to macbites.co.uk/join Slack. If you are a member and you are looking to log in and can't remember where on earth that is, that's really simple. It's macbites.co.uk/Slack. And you will be able to log in from there if you already have an account. So, that is it. How's Peter doing? Has he recovered from the shock yet? Oh, let us know, Pandemonium, let us know. So, do we have any other questions that are totally unrelated to anything that we did tonight? That you just want to yak about? Oh, look at Peter. Look at that smiley. Oh, Sarah, that's awful. Students gave you a very thoughtful cold. Oh, no. I must admit, we've done, fingers crossed, incredibly well for being coldified, haven't we? But I'm not good with colds. No, I can get very grumpy with a cold. I remember the funniest thing with a cold, do you remember when we were at church? Walked into church and it was around Easter time, so it was a long mass. And I walked in, I was walking up the centre of the church. The priest is following me at the back, going, Elaine, 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 which he always did. Do you remember that? He always did. And so I turned around and I literally, I was dying on my feet. I don't know how I got there. I was really ill. So I turned around and he looked at me and he said, "Are you all right?" And I went, "I lost my voice." And I had totally lost my voice. And he looked at me. So I'm like, what can I do for you? Lost my voice. And he said, "Oh, that's all right then. You're no use to me." I said, "Pardon?" He said, I was just going to ask you to do a reading. I thought we'd be there a while.
Jammy wants an unboxing, so my suggestion is that if he buys me something, I'll unbox it.
There's a plan. That works. Yeah, happy to do that. Oh, and Annie's pegged on us. She's flagged on us. Oh dear. Well, wish her a happy. Well, she's going to be happy tomorrow morning, isn't she, Peter? Because you're going to be happy, and the dogs are going to be happy, and I'm going to see the happy dogs. Would your dogs be happier if they were sniffing at a co-op robot? Because Lola, it's only a matter of time before Lola brings one home. We were laughing because many years ago, Maya must have been about, 10, 11. He wasn't a pup. Mum wanted to go. In the UK, we have garden centres. And garden centres have become a bit of a thing, haven't they? I mean, gone are the days when you walked in and bought like some soil and left. They're like a kind of community hub these days. They usually have a cafe of some description, and they're usually big on Christmas decorations, and they are not cheap. We are talking expensive Christmas decorations. And this particular garden centre that we were going to visit, we were taking Mum, was just through Bowden, wasn't it? So that's a really expensive area as well. So we got there. This garden centre is massive. And obviously, dog's not allowed in. What would he been like? Inveterate digger. He'd have had everything. And there would have been no bedding plants left. So we go in. I think I went in with Mum, didn't I? And you were outside with Maya. And there was a massive, like, tableau for Christmas. And it was like animatronics. There was like... elves playing the piano and Santa was stacking presents in the sack and stuff. But the thing that it was like stopped me in my tracks. They had what looked like, well, they were little polar bears. They were baby polar bears. There were two massive polar bears, but it was the baby polar bears. They were exactly the same size as Maya. And they looked exactly like a Samoyed. Well, I couldn't get over it. I was just mesmerised with it. And I'm like, oh my God, Maya would adore this. So we're billing and cooing. And the lady came over that was like on reception at the beginning, where you go in. And she came across and she said, are you liking this? And I said, this looks like my dog. So I showed her a picture and she was like, oh, it does. It's identical. So I said, he's outside. I said, I'll have to take some pictures of this and show him. So she said, bring him in. And I looked at her and I said, have you missed the no dogs sign? She said, oh, never mind that, bring him in. So we took Maya in to see this tableau. What was he like? He was chomping at the bit, pulling on the lead, howling like a wolf. And she was mesmerised and said, we'll take him out, he's making it. Leave him, he's enjoying himself. Oh, he was enjoying himself, all right. So, yeah, but it's a shame we couldn't take one home. These things moved, of course. So, of course, he from the distance he was like, it's alive. It was moving its head from side to side. It was shaking its tail. Oh, he was in his element. Diesel would volunteer for Robot Destruction Day. Oh, well, I think the two of them, they could get it in a pincer movement. Thing is, watching these things go past, and you're seeing them more than me, aren't you? Because my back's to the window. But as Mike's looking at them, he said they've stopped. Now they're going the other way. They seem a little bit confused at times, don't they? I know it's only new. I mean, they've literally only started this week. And it has been fantastic. All the interaction on the M33 group has been brilliant. And people are saying like, I was out for a run and I spotted one of the robots. It was stuck on a curb, so I helped it up. We're turning into a community. Absolutely fabulous. Oh, okay then. So we got no questions. You got no questions and no requests. I wonder what we could do next week. Or wonder how long it's going to take YouTube to process that video. There's a question. So no shouting at me, Peter, if YouTube takes one on itself. I reckon it should take 4 hours to process the 4K video. But if it takes one on itself and it's tomorrow tea time, nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with me whatsoever. It's a YouTube thing. Right, okay then. Am I allowed? Let's see if the keeper of my ice cream is going to allow me to have some ice cream, Peter. Am I allowed ice cream now? And if I could find a box set to watch, I would. It's rubbish at the minute. There's been nothing on. I knew this would happen. I knew once I gorged myself, I did, on the Bay. And what was the other one I gorged myself on? Oh, Unforgotten. That are both fabulous. We're not quite talking Line of Duty level, but they're good. I knew if I binge watch them, that'd be it. But you can't not if you're following the plot, because somebody else will have done, and they'll be all over social spoiling it. So that's why I watched it straight away. But am I allowed now? Vectornator. Okay, we'll have a look at Vectornator. Trouble is, you know what I'm going to get with that, Jammy, don't you? Why are you showing this when you use Affinity Designer? Now, I know Vectornator's free, but that's not the point. All the snotograms on the planet will come out. If that happens, Jammy, if I do that and it happens, can I send them on to you? I'll send all the snotograms to Jammy and Jammy can deal with them. That works. Nothing wrong with that at all. And if Lola does manage to catch one of the robots, I'll tell her to get at least 3. And we can send one to Peter and one to Kim. That way Kiva can play with it and Diesel and Poppy. Yeah, that'll work. Ice cream's what you need, Sarah, because you're poorly. You definitely need it. If I'd watched less last week. Oh, Peter, no, that's naughty. That's naughty. Right, I'm going to send him Jammy's way. You can be... What do you call that? It's like a bodyguard, isn't it? When somebody looks after the snotograms, because I don't want to.
It's PA.
A PA, there you go. Do you fancy being a PA? Obviously, there's no money involved. It was your idea. If we do Vectornator and people complain. We've also actually got Pixelmator. Pixelmator's amazing. Pixelmator's really improving, so you never know. Right, okay then. I am getting my ice cream. Never mind if I'd done more or less or whatever. It's done. It's in the can. It's actually more than in the can. It's finished. Oh, OneNote demo. OneNote. That's an idea. I did use OneNote in anger, which is pretty much sums up how I use Evernote as well. I did actually use that for a long time. You still use it at work, don't you?
I do.
Oh, we could talk Mike into a demo. I'm getting glared at now. Right, I'll leave that alone. I know you're only teasing, Peter, I know. But it's funny, isn't it? I couldn't believe, you'll find this bit funny. Behind the scenes alert. Right. I picked up the baton again as I thought, oh, Peter's video. And I looked at it and I thought, right, where was I? And I knew I'd done like an outline for it. So there was the outline. I thought, awesome. Then I thought, what's going to be on the screen when I'm explaining this? Because I hate talking over just a static screen when it's a video. So I thought, oh, I'm going to need a load of slides. Darn it. Only darn it wasn't what I said. So I thought, right, let's open the folder. And the folder is the video folder. So everything to do with this video goes in this single folder. There's a structure in there, but, everything's in there. So I thought, right, need to open. So I make it with post haste, which means that the PowerPoint file for what I call the overlays, so the overlays that are on the video while I'm talking, is in this template. So I opens the folder, I sees the PowerPoint file, and very heavy-heartedly I double-clicked it to open it. And when it opened, I'd done the slides. I'd totally forgotten. It was dated the 8th of February, if you're interested. I stood there mesmerised and thought, oh, the slides are done. Oh my! I know, I'm a woman of a certain age, clearly, if I'm forgetting that I've actually done the work. Let's just say. So yes, you're quite right, could have been a whole lot faster. Yeah, if I'd remembered I'd done it. Instead of sitting there thinking, oh no, I don't feel like making slides today, because there's ice cream and box sets to look at. So I take full responsibility for that. But now it's there. It's there. Oh, chocolate. Oh, Jamie wants to see Pixelmator too. Pixelmator is... a couple of things have happened weird with Pixelmator at the moment. But the Pro version's been out for 5.5 years. And yet the other one was still there. The original one. And the two are very different, and they've been running them side by side, but I think they've finally pulled the Classic, Pixelmator Classic. So I need to have a look at that, don't I, and Vectornator, and to have a look at it. You know it's Microsoft and heretic, but still. Well, the thing is, it's free. So OneNote is a pretty unique note-taking app in terms of the unlimited canvas and the drawing, highlighter pens, you name it. And the fact that the notebook, you're not limited to a single notebook. If you think of the way virtually every other Notes app works, you're limited to one high level. So the way Evernote works, it's a library, that's it. You can't just say, I don't want to open that one today, unless you've got multiple accounts and then you're paying through the nose. So it is quite unique. I'm going to have a word with Mike, because I know that Mike delivers that at work and does webinars, don't you?
Yeah, occasionally.
Once more with enthusiasm, dear. Yeah, I do. We'll have a chat about it and see how it goes. But for the moment, we're going to head off. So I'm going to say, and we have had a fabulous week because we did Marooned. I'm going to say good night from me.
And good night from me.
And we will both see you next time. Stay safe, guys.